Welcome back to another clay tutorial. Today we're going to create the world map from Super Mario World. This video is a collaboration with Ada's Atelier, so make sure you check out her amazing Super Mario Bros. Underwater scene. Also on her channel you can find things like Pikmin or Animal Crossing. It all starts right here with this paper printout. I can't believe this video got over 15 minutes long. I tried to make it as short as I could with still showing you all of the details, so I hope that it's not too long. Now we're going to be starting out the base by using all of this old leftover clay. This is all of the bad mixings I've made in the past, all of the dirty clay, all the dried out clay, and it's pretty crazy to see 2 years of clay creations just rolling on by. It was also a very strange coincidence that this was the exact amount of clay I needed to make the base. So next time I make something like this, I'm thinking maybe I'll make it on a board of wood. That's the only other thing I could come up with because I don't have this much extra clay now after using all of it. And our base is ready to get baked. After baking, we can finally start making our actual map. So by lightly mixing together some blue and white, we can get some really cool swirls for a water effect. And we'll place all of these little chunks randomly on here, and I think this gives it even more of a random water design. Here's all of the different color mixing I did for the main landmass. I thought I would show you guys exactly how much clay I used on this creation, in case you were interested. Now, I've never done any type of really level design. I made the Hyrule Castle stage from Super Smash Bros., but that's not really the same thing as creating the whole map here. So as usual, when I create something with clay, I try to think about it and look at pictures for a few days and really try to figure out every little detail and how to create it. And this one really took a lot of thinking. So I came up with this idea of using stencils. I did the same thing when I made Mr. Game & Watch and also the Final Smash from Mr. Game & Watch. And it turned out to work really good for this, so this is how we're creating all of the different island masses here. And then using the map, we can also see if everything is in place. So I'm creating everything exactly to scale of how the picture is. I don't think that I've ever actually played this specific Mario game before, so to familiarize myself with the map, I started playing it on the computer, on an emulator, because I don't actually have the physical game. I think it's really good to actually play the game before you start creating something from it. It really helps you know all of the details and make sure you don't miss anything. So I'm finding the game very difficult. I'm on to World 3 right now, and hopefully soon I'll be able to actually finish the game, but I think a lot of the reason why it's difficult is my laptop is very slow, but also I'm playing with the keyboard, and the game is really meant to be played with the controllers on the system. So it's really hard to remember which keys to push, and it just doesn't feel very good to play on a keyboard with the game. But I think that I've played it enough to be pretty familiar with the different areas. I created every single area on the map, except of course World 3 and, inside the Bowser Cave. Those are areas that you really just couldn't create. I had an idea where I could lift up the mountain and you could see World 3 inside of there, but it turned out to be just way too small, and that was a very unrealistic idea. So I skipped on that one, and also inside the Bowser Cave, you wouldn't be able to create the world inside of there. So I created everything else besides that, and I tried to match all of the details to exactly how they are on the map. A few of the things were maybe not so great, like some of the trees didn't fit in the forest so good, but I think overall it's a pretty good match to the real map. As you saw, we're using the same cutouts that we did to make the islands for creating the grass, and this works out really well. The only thing that I sort of eyeballed was this pond on the top, and it turns out I made it a bit too small, but it still looks great. Now that we're just about done with all of the green details here, after this last island, now let's create our color for the other places. The place on the bottom looks like a desert. I haven't gotten to this world yet, so I'm not really familiar with what the levels look like in there. And then on the top ridge here we have some gray. And also on that platform on the right there, we'll have some gray. I think it's a nice color difference instead of everything just being green. I think it makes those stages pop out a bit more. And I just had some left over here, so I decided to put that into the pond. Let's take some more of our water mixture here. I had some left over. And we'll do that the same over here. As you see, it's a little bit raised up so we can have a waterfall here. And we'll be using some Fimo liquid gel afterward to make this really look more realistic like water. Now we'll create this awesome little waterfall on the top here. I thought that this looked pretty nice by itself, but even better adding some white clay into here. We can do that on the bottom as well. And since the water is sort of moving, I wanted to have that on the actual stream of the rivers too, so where it's coming down here into the big lake or ocean, I wanted to have some little strips of it on there. And I think that it looks really nice, like it's sort of the water foaming as it comes down. I'm sure you've seen water like this at some point. Now we can start mapping out the whole path that Mario takes on his journey to save Yoshi's friends. That's sort of the idea behind this game, is that Yoshi's friends have been kidnapped by Bowser, and you have to rescue them by beating all of these different castles throughout the map. Now, when you see the map from a faraway view, not currently in the certain world, the one with the Forest of Illusion, the map is sort of just a bunch of trees everywhere, but when you're inside of it, it has the path marked out. And I thought that it looked a lot better having the path marked out, so I decided to go for that. But on Yoshi's Island, I just went for sort of the zoomed out look that you see when you're not currently on the island. It's a very small island, and I didn't really see myself fitting that many details in it. Now we can start putting all of the different level markers. These are the dots that you stop at to go to the different levels. I haven't actually got to the ones where there's a layer of blue and then yellow on top of it, so I'm not really sure what those levels are. Now we can take some white clay here and we'll create our very first item, I guess you could call it. These are sort of like the POW blocks in the game, except these ones, when you hit them, they unlock those certain blocks in the levels, so blocks of these colors start to appear in the levels, and it makes things a lot easier. You don't always have to hit these, you sort of have to go out of your way to get to them, and it's a different level that you have to complete, but I think it's very worth it, especially for someone like me who's not very good at it. For some reason, the reference picture I was working off of showed that there was a yellow, blue, and red one, but that's not very true. There's actually a green, yellow, and blue one, so I had to correct that. When I was creating this and doing the voiceover, somehow I really couldn't recall what these little rubble piles were, so maybe let me know in the comments if you guys know, or maybe next time I play the game I'll figure that out. Now we'll create our next little area on the map. These will be the Boo's houses. I think these were really fun to create. They're just so tiny, you can't even create them with your hands. I basically had to use different tools to create all of the miniature stuff. So here we're going to create the little Boos. These are actually levels that you go into too, where it's Boo's Mansion. So if you're familiar with the Mario games, you could guess what's in these. Here's our tiny little Boos. We'll glue those on after baking. A lot of the details I'm going to be gluing on after baking because they really wouldn't stick by themselves, and the super glue really just holds them on nicely. Here's going to be our little towers. And these, since there's going to be some grass wrapped around them, we will put them all over the map. But the castles and other details we won't. For some reason there's grass around the one in the desert. I didn't really understand that one, but I'm just going off of the pictures. Now we're going to create the castles. These ones were probably my favorite thing to create out of this whole map. I really had a lot of fun making these and just trying to figure out how to make this super tiny castle. Here we need the little door on the front, and those are going to be another detail that will be glued on afterward. We have all of these sort of random bumps in the desert. Those go all over the map too. And these rocks. Now we're going to create another tiny little detail on the map is Yoshi's house. You can visit this at the beginning of the game, but nobody's there and not really anything's going on, so I'm guessing maybe after you beat the game, Yoshi and all of his friends are there. Some more of these green bumps. And now we have these Mario hills. It's funny because I definitely know I've seen these plenty of times in Mario games, but for some reason I never questioned why they had eyes. I guess that just sort of fits into the theme of Mario, of just sort of weird little creatures and stuff in the background. We have these ancient ruins, I believe, all over the map. These don't really play a part in the game though, they're just sort of scenery. This one here, I don't really know what happened to him. I don't know if Mario beat him up or Bowser did, but someone gave him a good beating. And I forgot these little triangles here on the map. Here will be the doorway of the cave that I was talking about earlier that would have been impossible to create. And I had to use a stencil for the star. Stars always give me a lot of trouble. I thought I would be able to create this without a stencil, but after many tries I found out that was not going to happen. So as far as I could see, there was only 3 stars on the map. I think that maybe there's more inside of different areas, like inside of the cave. But we don't need to worry about those details. These are going to be the signs that mark each different world. Most of the details on that we'll do after baking. This is going to be the little vine that goes underneath the bridge. You can also find these in a lot of different levels in the game. We have the whole forest here, but it's just the tree stumps for now. These are all of the little trees that will glue on after baking. Originally, I created all the faces on them using black clay, but I got through about 2 or 3 of them and I realized that it took me about 20 minutes and it would be much easier to just paint them on. Those were the little bridges back there. Here's this ladder. I'll cut that into different segments later on. And now for my favorite part of the whole creation, the Bowser Cave. I don't really know what it looks like inside of here, I haven't gotten to that point yet. With this one it was a little difficult to create because on the picture from the game you really only see a front view, so I just had to make up my own design for sort of the sides and back of it. It seemed like this was going to be really challenging and that's why I left it for the end instead of creating it earlier on. But it turned out once I got into it, it really wasn't too difficult. It's just a lot of different pieces all slapped together that make this Bowser face. And after that big one right in the middle there, I think it's really starting to look like Bowser. Now we can start adding in all of the sharp fangs and teeth. I think this is a great detail and it just looks awesome. So now on the back here is where I had to start making my own design. I sort of just added spikes everywhere to bulk it up. Now we have these white rocks that circle around it. And the ocean is full of these rocks actually. So here we have more of these rocks, just sort of randomly in the ocean. I tried to follow the pattern on the map pretty well. Here we have this Fimo liquid gel. I've used this stuff a couple times before in the water and I love it. It gives this awesome effect. I know right now it looks very sort of milky. It doesn't look very clear. But after baking it turns almost entirely transparent and sort of just adds a nice gloss to the water. So we're going to add this everywhere on the map. The little nozzle just wasn't really working good enough, so I decided to just pour it out of there. And now our map is ready to get baked. After baking, we can start removing all of the excess gel. This stuff turns very, very liquidy in the oven, almost as thin as water, so it sort of runs off the side. I actually had to bake it again after putting a second layer of it on because so much of it came off. Now here's the little tree for the Forest of Illusion. I haven't gotten to this point yet, but I'm guessing I'm not going to like it. Okay, here we have all of the little signs. These will mark the different areas. We can start gluing all of the trees onto the stumps. This was definitely the most time-consuming part. Here's our first sign, number 5, and our little Boo's Mansion. As you see there, I just glued the ghost to the side of the house, and I think it looks like he's flying around it. And this part is basically just gluing stuff all over the place. Here we have our bridges. And we have some painting to do here. I thought that it would just be easier to do that with the paint rather than trying to put the clay dots on there. We have our fish jumping out of the water. And our final detail, the sunken ship. And here it is, guys, the map from Super Mario World. I hope you all enjoyed the video. This was a crazy creation to make. Let me know in the comments if there's any other game maps you would like me to create. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. And also don't forget to check out Ada's channel. And I will see you all in the next one.